You are watching Soul Care 360 with Tim and Carlene. Welcome to the show. All right, so we are back today on location, and let me tell you, I am so glad that we are back with Dr. Dolores Tarver. Dr. Tarver, your yes means everything to us. And I know you guys can see that Tim is not here today again. I have to tell you that he is out taking care of his family, but he will be back. This is episode 4, and we're going to be digging a little deeper today. I hope that doesn't scare you.
It doesn't.
Awesome. It doesn't scare me either. We want to just go, a little bit deeper in the information that we're giving to our audiences. And so we just really appreciate you being here with us today. So this is episode 4, and it's called Digging Deeper. And there will be a part 1 and a part 2. So we're asking that you guys just come on in and you watch us and you like us and you do all of those things that will, and tell people about us, because this information is not, light information. This is information that you can use to absolutely change your life. So before we dive in with Dr. Tarver, with what we're going to be talking about today, I just want to talk to you a little bit about 3 books, okay? Now, this book right here, I met this sister who wrote this book. Her name is Robin Good, and she has no idea that I'm doing this. I met this sister at Soul 2.0. And that's one of the events that Denise Mosley has. And I had it for a year, and I just felt an urgency to read this book. And it's called Fighting Through the Smoke. Now, you can find Robin Good on Facebook, I'm sure. But I want to say to you, this book was absolutely life-changing. I don't deal with addiction or anything like that, but just the grace of God and then the emotions of people pleasing, it is just an amazing book. So I would encourage you to purchase this book. Again, her name is Robin Good. She is on Facebook, and her book also tells about how God's hand is in it. Even though when you don't think it, when you are going through so many things, God's hand was all in it for her. And then, of course, these are my 2 books. This is Pearls. A Pathway Along the Path to Destiny, Pearls Along the Path to Destiny. This book is the first book that I authored. And it was like one of those things that you do, I self-published. And Dr. Tarver, I don't know if you remember, oh, you have it. Oh my gosh. Where, I was feeling, sort of insecure about it. And I knew, Dr. Tarver, she's a psychologist, so I wanted her to read it. And this has been many years ago.
Yes.
And she read this book and she was like, yeah, it's good. And so that really helped me out a lot. But I want to encourage you to get this book. This book is life-changing. It really is. It was authored in 2014. It's called Pearls Along the Path to Destiny. This book is $5. If you want this book, you can contact me on Facebook, or you can go to my website at www.findingmyelbow.org. And also you can get a PDF copy of that. And this is the companionship to that. And this book is called Pearls, Practical Tips for Adding Beauty and Value to Your Life's Journey. Now, this book, you can buy it on Amazon. I'm very proud of both of them. This book, if you're dealing with addiction and people pleasing, you need it. This is going to tell you all about, all of those people who try to control your life, but real good. And so now let's get started. We'll put those over there. All right, Dr. Tarver, thank you. I want to tell you that your yes again means so much to me and Tim. There is so much that we have talked about, since you've been on the show. And then there's so much more we have to talk about. And so we're on location with you. You've made your office available to us, and we're really thankful for that. But I want to ask you something today. I want you to tell me about the difference between mental health and mental illness. Because there was a big difference. And a lot of people, they sort of use those words interchangeably. And there's a succinct difference between mental health and mental illness. I could say my physical health. I could talk about my spiritual health. I can talk about my relational health. And I can talk about my mental health. But somehow that mental health seems to get lumped into mental illness. So let's talk about that.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you so much for having me,
You're
Elder.
welcome.
So whenever I talk about mental health, I talk about it in terms of mental wellness.
Yes.
Right? So there are actually 8 wellness areas that have been identified. And mental wellness is one of them, like spiritual wellness. You already got into physical wellness, social wellness, intellectual wellness. All of these things are very important. So when I talk about mental wellness, we're talking about all of the things we do collectively to nurture our mental well-being. And mental well-being encompasses a lot of different things, right? It encompasses how we're sleeping. It encompasses how we communicate. It encompasses how we think about ourselves, the core beliefs that we have created. It encompasses the inspirational messages that we talk to ourselves about. Mental wellness is about our cognitive clarity.
Yes.
How we're able to focus and attend and get things done, how we're able to reach our goals, how we're able to be able to articulate our goals to other people, our purpose, our meaning, our self-worth, all of that is tied into mental wellness. And as we all know that mind, body, and spirit are connected, which is why it's important for those other areas to be in balance as well. Those are all part of mental wellness. What we tend to do is we tend to pathologize when we come to talking about the mental wellness. And so then it becomes mental illness.
Right.
Right. And so I want us to be, I'm so happy that you brought this up. I want us to be very intentional about the words we speak into life. Right? So if I'm talking about my mental well-being and only using mental illness and mental disorder,
Yes.
then how am I going to be able to be healed when I'm coming from this place of saying that I'm already sick?
Right.
Right? Mental illness, mental disorders are actually things that are classified in a booklet. We call it the DSM-4, TR now that we're on, which talks about in order for you to have a mental disorder, you have to meet certain criteria. That means you are socially not in a healthy place. You are cognitively not in a healthy place. You are emotionally not in a healthy place. And as evidenced by how things in your life are being affected.
Right.
So I'm not sleeping well.
Right.
I'm staying up at night. My mind is racing at night. When I am sleeping, not getting restful sleep, I'm exhausted.
Right.
I am having unhealthy patterns of relationships in my life. We were talking earlier about unhealthy relationships with food, right? And so we have attention deficits. We have dissociations where I'm here, but I'm not here.
Right.
I've escaped. We talked about that a little bit when we were talking about your trauma. I was moving, going through the motions, but I wasn't actually present, right? So these are the things that actually are mental illness.
Right.
Go ahead, because I see a question.
Yeah, well, not so much of a question as the definitions, because see, one of the things we jargon is something that, well, let me just say this: understanding words and jargon is important. Okay, so my favorite definition of health comes from the WHO, right? And that's in my Pearls book, and it says that it describes health as a state. Just what you just said, a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, but it's not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So what that means is that you can be in a state of physical completeness, social well-being, as well as mental well-being, yet you can still be in a disease state.
Come on now.
And so with that, we have to be able to recognize the differences between mental health and mental illness, because you just gave a great example of all of those. And so when we talk about trauma, because that's a lot of mental illnesses are, I would say, the traumas will exacerbate maybe something that is underlying. Okay, and sometimes there is nothing that's underlying, but the trauma is such that it is so impactful in a person's life that they can't recover from it, and then they will end up going into a state of mental disorder or mental disease.
Amen.
And so, with knowing all of that and having, like you and I were talking about, having experienced some things in our lives, right? You know, we were talking about my very unhealthy relationship with food. Okay, we were also talking about how in relationships with our family members, how the things that they can say and they do to us, they are unaware how it impacts our soul. Now, I always say that the soul is like fertile soil. I use a jar. It's encased in a jar. So whatever seeds are dropped down in there, okay, whatever is nurtured, it doesn't matter. At the age of awareness, whatever is nurtured, whatever seeds are there, that's what's going to grow. So if I've been called, you're too fat. If I've been told that I'm ugly, if I've been told that you're not made up like like a normal person should be made up, all of those things that our family members will do, sometimes unaware, and then sometimes aware. So you have to you even have to tread through that and see, okay, so was this by default, or is this intentional? But anyway, so all of those things that drops down into our souls, and then the fruit starts to bud, and then we're self-conscious, and then we're hiding food up under the bed, Carlene, like I did, and then we start to and the family sort of sees that as funny. Oh, we found neck bone bones and we found chicken bones up under the bed where Lean sleeps. Well, at some point, that story wasn't funny anymore because it was very painful, as we were talking about. And then changing your name. Yeah. We were talking about that. My name, I was given, and I can't say whether or not the intent was to harm me, but as a child, aware that I am being called, and please excuse me, I don't mean to be ugly, big dude, yellow teeth. There was a whole sort of chant. Can you imagine those seeds being dropped into my very soul as a young girl? And so it does something to you. So talk to me about what we do to each other.
Ooh, that was so much. That was so
I
much.
know it was a lot.
That was a lot, but thank you. Right, because you are speaking on behalf of probably so many people who may not have a voice to be able to say that, may not understand exactly what that meant in terms of where the origin, right? I like a good origin story.
Yes.
How did I get here? How did my self-esteem get this way?
Yes.
How did I end up picking people that make me shrink?
Come on.
Come on now. How did I end up being in jobs that don't appreciate me?
Absolutely.
How did I end up feeling like I had to look a certain way in order to be loved and accepted, right? And I think, let me first just say to anybody that's ever been body shamed, whether somebody said you weren't thick enough or you were too thick, that resonates in your spirit and you hold on to it. And in that, you begin to create an identity already about not being enough.
Yes.
Come on, go ahead.
Yes. No, you go ahead.
Okay,
no,
okay.
I want you to finish that, and then I've got something.
Okay. So one of the things to just, I always talk to people about worth, our self-worth, because that is how we talk to ourselves in those quiet moments at nighttime, or in the still places with the food under the bed, or with the bottle of something to relax us, or with that thing that we smoke, or with that person who we use. Right? It is about worth. And where that came from is wherever those seeds were planted.
Absolutely.
And took root. Nobody's going to ever love you. You don't know how to cook, you ain't going to be able to keep no man. You don't know how to clean, you don't know how to take care of yourself. How you gonna take care of somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how to do no kids' hair. What you gonna do? Give them dreadlocks? You don't know how to speak
Right.
well enough to
Right.
be able to do that.
Right.
You don't have enough education to do that. You're not pretty enough
Mm-hmm.
to do that. Your forehead is too big.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For
That, yeah, you got a 5 head.
Come on now.
I just heard that, a 5 head. I'm like, what is that? Okay.
Listen, those glasses, you got too many eyes to be doing right. Like, take those off. That is not something that people are gonna find attractive, and it sets in our spirit, and it creates core beliefs.
Right. And those core beliefs, and this is what I want to say. I want to say that the soul, okay, I see you're using spirit, but I use the soul. I use soul because that's the immaterial part of us. I consider the soul as the essence of who we are. It is me, it is you, it is the makeup, the full makeup of who Dr. Tarver is. It is the full makeup of who Elder Carlene is. And let's just break it on down who Lean is. Because when God gave me, he gave me first. Okay? When he allowed me to come into this earth, it was me, Carlene. And, you know, my mom just didn't haphazardly name me. There's a reason why I'm named Carlene and I'm called to do what I do. So we talk about the soul. And a lot of people say it is the seat of our emotions, okay? But the soul contains our emotions, our intellect, and our will. So just think about those 3 things. Our emotions, our intellect, and our will. All right, so if I've got all these bad seeds that's planted down here, how do you think that is going to impact my emotions? How do you think that's going to make me show up? How do you think I'll be able to process, am I good enough, am I not good enough? Am I going to pick the right person? Is this the right ministry for me? Do I have misaligned loyalties? You have absolutely no idea, okay? Because you have been inundated with bad seeds, right? And so those are your emotions. So your intellect, all right? So the intellect is our thinking part, okay? It doesn't necessarily, in my opinion, you can correct me if I'm wrong, it doesn't necessarily say what your IQ is.
No.
Your intellect, it encompasses a lot of things, right? So if our soul contains our intellect, how do you think that makes us move through life, being able to make these decisions, or the inability to make good, healthy, whole decisions? Our intellect, okay, and our will, okay? When we have been inundated, or when bad seeds have been planted, we don't even know what's good for us. So I may want to make a good decision, but I don't have the ability to choose wisely. My will then becomes someone else's will. My will then opens me up to allow somebody else to dictate my entire life to me.
Absolutely. And the thing that I think a lot of people struggle the most with is that when you value someone else's opinion over that of your own, when you think that someone else can make better choices than you can make, then it makes you forever question all of the aspects of yourself, right? So now I got to check in with you. And this is how we end up getting in dynamics with people that mistreat us.
Correct.
Because I don't trust myself. Because the seed that was planted was it. I don't make good decisions.
Right.
I'm not wise enough to do that. I am going to make the wrong choice with something, with a person some of us can't even decide what we want to eat. We're checking in with other people. Am I hungry or not? I don't know. Let me ask you if I'm hungry.
Wow.
Right? And these
Wow.
are long-standing effects of trauma. And
Correct.
We talked previously about that a lot of times people think trauma is relegated to things that happen in the war zone, or trauma is relegated to only sexual assault.
Correct.
And we don't talk about the trauma that is embedded in us in our families of origin. And you're right, they may not have intended to do it, and I know that they loved us. Most of them loved us dearly and would do anything for us.
Absolutely.
But intent does not negate impact.
And see, that right there, I need for you to say that again, because that to me is so powerful. It fills this room when you say intent does not negate impact. And I think a part of us being able to reconcile within ourselves the intent or not the intent. I think we get lost right there because we will say, well, maybe they didn't mean to, but it doesn't matter because the damage is done. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll draw back and we'll just keep it, we'll hold on to it, and we won't release it and process it so we can heal. We won't have that conversation like you were talking about. Listen.
Right, and so Elder Ingram is referring to, this is how you know when you're grown, right?
Come on.
This is what I tell people. You know that you're grown when you can go back to the people that you were always taught to revere and respect, and that whatever they said was the truth,
Yes.
even if it never was. And you go to them and you say to them, I need for you to stop this thing
Yes.
that you are doing, and moving forward, we're going to do something different. So a moment for me, so my nickname is Deanie, which comes from my middle name, Deneen. And so people have taken that name, they've called me Dee Dee, they've called me Dina. People have Denny. Just and throughout my life, depending on who this person was in my life, I never said anything about it. I just accepted it. And so here, some 30 years later, I finally said, so first of all, my name is Deanie, right? And if you can say Dina or Dee Dee or Denny, you can say Deanie. Long E like Houdini, the band. It's real easy. Just take the who off of it, right? And second of all, the jokes.
Yeah.
The jokes, the Duke jokes, the bone jokes, the no hip jokes, the no booty jokes, the forehead jokes. They are hurtful. And you bring them up every time we gather. And you think it's funny and it's passing on family time,
Yes.
traditions and memories. So let me tell you that that's not actually what it does for me.
Right.
Because the joke is only funny if I think it's funny.
Right.
And at some point in my life, it stopped being funny. But I didn't have the voice to be able to tell you. And so when you've grown, you're able to say, that's not funny. Please stop doing that. And if you want to share some memories, I've got so many that are beautiful memories.
Right.
To me.
And not impacting hurt on top of hurt on top of hurt. That's really, really powerful, and I love it. I love it when you say grown because that grown, a lot of people are not ready for you when you really get grown. A lot of people, you know, and you know, we're not dinging family members or anything like that. We love our families, but there are boundaries that have to be established in order to ensure that we are healthy. And my ultimate purpose is for people to hear us, get these tools that we are releasing, these pearls, you know, and be able to take those pearls and all of those tools, use those tools so that you can become healthy, so that you can become whole, because there's purpose waiting for you, and purpose escorts you into destiny. And so this is why we're digging deeper, and we're not done. And we don't want to, you know, sound like we're bashing family. We're not. We're telling what our experiences are. And no one experienced what we experienced but ourselves. And I'm the only one who can tell you what it felt like. Dr. Tarver is the only one who can tell you how she felt when. And so with that being said, we're going to be taping part 2, and I cannot wait for it.